Today we're going to start and we're going to talk more about the nitty-gritty of what this ministry is all about. Last evening in the first three modules, we covered primarily the foundation. Why do we need a ministry? Why do we need to have a care ministry? Can't we just go ahead and just have good services and listen to good preaching and teaching and just keep on believing? No, we can't, because we are dealing with people that fail, people that falter, people that fall, people that struggle, people that need attention. We cannot ignore the fact that we are working with human beings. We're not working with angels. I wished we did, but sometimes that may have been more difficult because we're not perfect. But we need to talk about the aspects that will really help us to get the job done. And so this morning, we're going to begin to talk about the care system in itself. Now, this may be less exciting than building a structure. Before I go there, let me go ahead and turn off my phone. Excuse me, ladies and gentlemen. There we go. So we're going to talk about the structure. We're getting into the nitty-gritty, and as I said, this may not be as exciting, although as far as I'm concerned, this is the exciting part, because I want to know, how do I do it? Don't just tell me what I've got to do, tell me how. If you don't tell me how, it can't excite me. So today, we're going to talk about how do we do this. All right, so again, in the Care Revolution, the textbook, most of it you will find on page 175 going through page 200. But we're going to concentrate more on your handbook as we are going forward in just a moment. So the care ministry on page 17 at the top, the care ministry operates within the framework of a well-designed system. Just underline that word system, or even draw a circle around that little word system, because it's important. That facilitates a successful outcome of ministry. Now, the smart people tell us that the human body has 11, that's your word there, 11. The human body has 11 major systems that make it function. Now, these systems relate to one another in such a way that the body is unable to survive without any one of them. Now, similarly, to function properly, the body of Christ also needs systems. Although we understand the church in itself is not a system. Now, local churches, for the most part, use systems for effective evangelism, assimilation, stewardship, people development, leadership, and so on. Unfortunately, few churches have a satisfactory method to care adequately for the people. Now, the care ministry network that we're talking about today really answers this desperate need to deliver authentic care to all the members of a congregation. Here again, I want to underscore, that's why that little bitty word all is in bold, because we want to provide care to all of the members, not only those that are going through tough times or are sick in the hospital or whatever the case may be. That's what we are going to talk about in the session today. Now, the Care Ministry Network is not only a slogan or a mere concept, and neither is it an added-on program in the church. Instead, it conveys the idea, and this is important, of cultivating a culture of care. Again, it's in bold, but draw a little circle around the culture. We're not talking about adopting a program. We are talking about changing a culture. I want you to kind of let that sink in. We're not adding on another program. Lord help us, we don't need to add on more programs. We got too many programs. As a matter of fact, I've told pastors I tell them, I said, now that we've come out of COVID, everything pretty much has died. Attendances have died, a lot of stuff have died, programs have died, ministers have died. I said, now you've got to be smart. While all the ministries and programs have died, make sure that some of them are not resurrected again. Just leave them in the grave. Don't have some kind of resurrection. Because this is the problem many times with either programs or with ministry. They create traditions. And people buy into the tradition of the ministry more than the ministry or program or whatever you want to call it. But the problem is when people buy into the tradition of a ministry, they begin to create holy cows. And they worship the cow more than they serve the ministry. Now, if you dare to touch the tradition of that ministry, you are actually attempting to slaughter a cow. And when you do that as the pastor, you're going to be next. So you've got to be careful how you handle that. Pardon my voice, it sounds horrible. But I'm not going to say it again. I draw attention to you, to it. So this is a good time to realize we are not adding on a program. We are talking about a culture. What is a culture? A culture is the way that we act as a group within the community. You've got something for me. You know, that's why you're here. Look at that smart lady. Thank you very much. Give her a big hand, everybody. She's got the heart for care, you see. I'm going to use one of them right now. So let's move on. I'm right about a little bit below the middle of page 17. The power of the Care Ministry Network. Now again, I've touched on it, and I'm emphasizing it here again, that number one, it deals with the church's culture. Everybody say culture. I can't hear you. Say culture. Culture. There you go. It defines, now this is important, it defines who the congregation is and reveals its heart. We're going to touch on it a little later on, but I think I need to say it here again. When we talk about culture, we realize that it's not something that we do, don't miss this, it's not something that we do, it's who we are. If we can have a culture at Glad Tidings of love and care, people will refer to Glad Tidings as a caring place. What can you tell me about Glad Tidings? Oh, it's a caring place. They care about people. When that happens, we have developed a culture. We've cultivated a culture. And in that way, everything we do, every ministry we do, every prayer that we pray will be about love and care. Because at the end of the day, that's all about God. God cares. God loves. But God does not only love, God is love. All right, we'll talk more about that. We touched on the 5 basic human needs last evening, and we're saying here in the second bullet point that the Care Ministry Network addresses the basic needs all humans have. Remember, again, to love, to be loved, to belong, to be accepted, all those kind of things. And it also touches on the priesthood of the believers. I underline that, priesthood of the believers. What do I mean when I say the priesthood of the believers? It's a matter of giving the ministry back to the people. During the Reformation, the whole thing changed from the priests doing everything And there should have been a more of an emphasis then already on the priesthood of the believer, where the ministry shifted from the priests to the people. Now, when we talk about the care ministry now, in this aspect that we are approaching, we are saying that the ministry is moving from the pulpit to the pew, from the professionals to the people. That's the priesthood of the believer. Every one of you, you're a priest. Did you know that? Don't go buy a robe, but you are a priest. You're a priest before God. But you're also a saint. Some of you don't act like it, but you are. No, you're good. You're a saint, and you're a priest before God. And when we look at the value of those things, we realize that everything we do, we're doing it in the service of God, the great creator, the God that loves. All right. It exposes the neglect and underscores the necessity to equip the saints for their work of the ministry. And then, of course, and we spent more time on that last evening, we're not going to dwell too much on that, it creates or initiates the Great Commitment, underline Great Commitment. It conveys the message of caring for the flock, the household of faith. Then also through the network, it alleviates some of the stress from the pastor's life. When people expect to visit the sick, pray with every member, attend every function, counsel all the people, and still visit each household. The pastor just cannot do that alone. It aligns the local church to become healthy and robust, and energizes its members to become involved in evangelism, missions, outreach, and so on. It is all but impossible for a sick church to accomplish these things. Can I say that again? I know I've said it 6 times before. But a sick church just does not have the energy, does not have the spirit to really want to do outreach or missions or whatever it may be. All they want to do is go through the motion. It's a kind of a feed me. And if you don't feed me well, I'm going to find another place to go and eat. It's all about me. It's such an entitlement. A sick church becomes very entitled because it's not about other people. It's not even about the ministry. It's about me. How does that benefit me? How does that bless me? But when we take on the approach that we are part of the priesthood of the believers, we are ministers, we have an obligation, and we have especially the honor to be able to serve in a manner to care for other people, then the church starts becoming healthy. And when the church becomes healthy, there's new energy. When there's new energy, there's a desire to get outside the walls of the church, go and knock on doors, do outreaches, get more people saved so that we can bring them into a loving church. When we bring them into a loving church, they're exposed to the culture of care and love, and they become filled with care and love. They are energized. They become healthy. You get the picture. It happens when a church is healthy. That's what we are talking about. Now, Kerry Niehoff, he's pretty much a pace-setting leader these days. He said, the best answer I know of for pastoral care is to teach people to care for each other in groups. I'm convinced, he says, that if we change how we do pastoral care, we will reach more people. And in the process, we care for people much better than we do now. So I'm going to say that we are on the cutting edge. Ladies and gentlemen, we're on the cutting edge. Look across the table at somebody and say, you're on the cutting edge. Look at somebody else and say, welcome to the club. Pick up your paddle. No, don't. No, you're going to think, I want to spank. No. All right, let's look at the definition. Let's get to the nitty-gritty. Now, based on, underline the scriptural reference, 1 Corinthians 12, verse 25 through 26, the working definition of the care ministry is this. The care ministry network is an authentic and proven congregational care system that enables God's people to care for one another consistently. Now, ladies and gentlemen, I'm sorry to tell you, but that little paragraph statement there, we're going to have to learn that and be able to quote that. So you've got to memorize that. How many of you like to memorize stuff? Let me see. 1, 2, 3, 4. There's another hand, 5. I see another hand, thank you. There's another, God bless you. Okay, it's not an altar call. All right, people don't like to memorize because we've all become lazy. Why would we want to memorize it? I put it on my phone. All I have to do is pull out my phone. I can read it. We don't want to memorize, but you cannot always have your phone with you. So I'm going to suggest that you start memorizing it right now. Amen. Okay, here we go. So everybody, listen to it one more time. All right? Follow along. It says the Care Ministry Network is an authentic and proven congregational care system that enables God's people to care for one another consistently. All right? Here we go. Everybody read it out loud. Here we go. 1, 2, 3. The Care Ministry Network is an authentic that enables God's people to care for one another consistently. All right. I want you to read it through 3 times. Everybody go ahead, read it through to yourself right now. All right, I think some of you already have it, right? Yes. Now, sometimes what throws people is that final word consistently at the end. If you don't want to quote the word consistently, that is fine. It doesn't change the meaning of it. But if you want to keep it in there, that's fine. So everybody now read it out loud again. 1, 2, 3. All right. Most of you still kind of peeked at your page, and that's fine. So you can do that again. Try now to not look at your page, but if you do, we will not charge you an extra fee. All right. So everybody, here we go again. 1, 2, 3. You are smart. I mean, you guys are very smart. All right? Now, I'm going to ask some of you to get up and repeat it for us. How was that? Okay. Let's start, let me see, with Gwendolyn. Is there another Gwendolyn? Where's the other Gwendolyn? Not true. Not true. Okay, I'm not going to put you on the spot. Let's try it. Mm-hmm. The care ministry. Kind of, sort of, yeah. Okay, let me see. Who else can I challenge? Who else can I challenge? I think Pastor knows it very well.
Sure. Care Ministry Network is a proven and authentic congregational care system that enables God's people to care for one another consistently.
Great. Now, look at one person across the table. Is there more than one? Then take two chances. Recite it to each other. All right. At the count of three, everybody look this way. Nobody peek at your notes. If I can't see you, remember somebody can. All right, here we go. 1, 2, 3. Great, give yourself a hand. You're off to a good start. Now, we've said it over and over, let's say it again. The ministry of care is not restricted. Your word there is restricted to the credentialed ministers only. Peter was not an installed pastor, yet Jesus told him, "Tend my sheep." True, he had been with Jesus for nearly 4 years, but many church members have been with him longer than that. The elders to whom Peter gave the charge, "Tend the flock of God that is in your charge," were not people with seminary degrees. If you can love people, you can care for people. So let's move into some of the structure. Any healthy structure requires, number one, levels of leadership. Number two, lines of authority. And three, clear avenues of communication. The fourth one that I've added on later years was peer level identification. In other words, who are you working with? Who is in your team? Now, what is important is what's at the bottom of page 18. Everyone in the organization has to know to whom they are accountable, underline the word accountable, for whom they are, underline the word responsible, and with whom they are serving in a relationship, a peer level. That means there has to be vertical, up and down, as well as horizontal lines. All organizational communication should follow these avenues. In other words, you will see in a moment how we have developed levels of leadership. There are going to some people be on one level, other people on another level, and then the flocks that we are ministering to. Now, we're going to show you in that, even when we communicate, we don't just all jump up if we have a problem, run to pastor. That's defeating the whole purpose. We talk to the people that we are in relationship with. That's what the whole system is all about. So we have developed what we call on page 19, the 5 levels of, instead of care, write the word leadership, the 5 levels of leadership. Now, the Care Ministry Network proposes 5 levels of care to reach each person in the church family. Each of these levels serve a particular purpose, which makes the entire ministry function as a healthy organism. Now, we do have a slide that we'll be seeing in the manual in just a moment, but if we can put that on the overhead, that can be helpful at this point in time, and there you go. When you look at that, you see what I'm talking about. We're talking about Jesus Christ as the head of the church. He has given us a pastor, and then there is a minister, a director of pastoral care. Then we have a leadership team. Then we have a level there that we are calling care shepherds. And under the care shepherds, we have a line of care pastors, and then we have the flock. Now the care ministry functions as an extension of the lead pastor's vision. If the lead pastor does not have a vision for care ministry, it will fail. Now, we don't have to stop there a long time. We all know that Pastor Paul has that very strongly in his vision, and that's why we're here this weekend, so we can care for every person in the congregation and even those that are still on their way here. Then we have right now called the launch team, and they are probably going to become the leadership team, I'm not sure. But then we have the minister or director of pastoral care, and I believe that's going to be Bill and Kathy Wade. They're going to be the directors. Is that correct, Pastor? All right, so let's say welcome to Bill and Kathy Wade as the directors. Yay! Great, great. All right, then there is the leadership team. Then there's a level that we call the care shepherds. Don't be too concerned if you don't understand what all these terminologies mean. We'll take time and explain all of them. I just want you to get the levels concept in your mind. Now, the care shepherds that we're talking about there, in actual fact, should function in the role of elders, because the Bible makes it very clear that the main task of an elder is to shepherd the flock, to take care of the flock, to take care of the people. So care shepherds will have the qualifications of elders, but we'll talk about that separately in a moment. Then we have a level, as you can see, 5 darker colored blocks called care pastors. Care pastors normally you would almost say would fulfill the role of deacons, but that doesn't fit into the scenario of modern day organizations in church, but that is the biblical concept of how that works. Now, let's break that down. Then we'll see that, look at the H in the middle of care shepherds. Out of there is their line that comes down to care pastors, which indicates that every care shepherd will be responsible for 5 care ministers. All right? Now, it all depends on the numbers and the size of a church. It could be 3, it could be 5. We say no more than 5, no less than 3. So every care shepherd will give oversight and leadership to 3 to 5 care ministers. Every care minister, which is a couple, every care minister is responsible for 3 to 5 families. What does the chart say? I think it says 5 to 7. It's 3 to 5 right now. 5 to 7 sometimes can get too many. Although I've got to tell you, the Humphreys, where's Susan? Oh, you're here. Susan, mom and dad, Joy and Troy Humphreys. You remember, they came to us one time and they said, we'd like to have 10 families. We're retired, we love people, and we like to have 10 families. So Joy and Troy took care of 10 families. I don't know if we ever really gave them 10, but they insisted they wanted 10. Lord, bring back those happy days. Right now it seems like everybody's too busy. So we're saying if we bring it down to 3 to 5, we're okay. The average across the nation is 5. This ministry right now is getting so hot that I'm going to have to get people to help me. It's amazing. But nevertheless, all across the nation, it seems like the average is 5. Some churches start off with 3. So what am I talking about? I'm saying every care shepherd has 3 to 5 care ministers. Every care minister has 3 to 5 families that they take care of. You don't want to give a care minister less than 3 families because then it becomes worthless. But many times they cannot take care of more than 5. Now, ladies and gentlemen, each one of you as care ministers are going to be responsible to stay in touch with 5 families. That's all you're going to have to do. Now, the big thing is we're going to tell you how to stay in touch with them. That's what we're going to talk about. So all you're going to do is have 5 families, probably 3 to 5 families. That's all your responsibility. Oh no, I wanted to have the whole church. Well, you can do that, but we're not going to put you on the platform, okay? And neither are we going to pay you. No, but that's not in the text. The fact is, ladies and gentlemen, that this ministry is not overwhelming, but it is powerfully effective to where everybody in the church is taken care of. Now, we're going to talk about all of what I just said in encapsulated form. We're going to talk about that in detail going forward. But right now, what I wanted to have settled in your mind, and you'll see it in a moment in your guide, I wanted you to see the levels that we're talking about. Primarily, not only the directors and the team, but the care shepherds and the care ministers. Now, in some churches, they actually call them elders and they call them deacons. Some call them care supervisors and care ministers. Whatever you call them is not important as long as you have the structure in mind and you build according to that. All right? Any questions? Everybody happy? Okay. All right. It's clear as mud right now, but it'll be very clear in just a moment. Okay. Thank you. You can take that slide down. Now leave it there if they want to reference it. That's fine. So as we proceed on page 19, we see the 5 primary levels are the care director, care leadership team, care shepherds, care pastors, in your case, care ministers, and flocks. Now, every local church chooses its own designation, and we've already talked about that. If you don't want to call them care shepherds, call them care supervisors, care leaders, whatever. That's not important. Titles are not important. The ministry, the concept is. All right. A summary of the 5 levels. First of all, the care director. Now, before I go there, I'll mention it later on, but I want to say it up front. Whenever we talk about the care director, we're always talking about a couple. When we talk about the care minister, we're always talking about a couple, not talking about a singular person. So when we say care director, we're actually meaning a couple. When we say a care shepherd, we're talking about a couple. When we say care minister, we're talking about a couple. Whoop. Well, what if I'm not married? Okay, I'm glad you asked the question, so let me tell you. No, we're saying that we don't ever want to see anybody function as a singular person. So we're talking about couples, husband and wife, but then we are talking about single people. We're saying if there are single people that are wanting to become involved in this ministry, whoa, thank you, we love that, we need you, please. But we're going to ask two single people to connect together to form a team so that they can function together as a team. So when you talk about care pastor or care minister, you are talking about two people that are functioning together as a team, either as a couple, husband and wife, or two brothers together or two sisters together, and you are functioning together then as a team. And you'll see as we unfold why it is important that we always have two people and never a singular person. All right. So if any questions, jot them down. I'll give you a break, a moment to ask more questions if you desire to do so. I know that I'm kind of going back and forth, but I want this part of the concept to sink in so that you can understand what we are talking about. All right. So the care director, couple, leads the care ministry network, and a leadership team assists him or her in the execution. Now, typically, the care director is a servant leader. That is, in most churches, not a paid staff position. So the care directors are accountable directly to the lead pastor. And they also care for the leadership team. That's important. The care leadership team functions alongside the care director and assists to lead the entire ministry. And then it says more of what they do. There's another blank further down in that paragraph, and it provides care. I want to read that. Each member of the team, leadership team, also provides care to 3 care shepherds. Underline those. All right. Now the care shepherds provide leadership and guidance to 3 to 5 care ministers. Some churches opt to use their elders in this role. We talked about that. They're accountable to the care director. Again, the care shepherds are accountable to the care director. And the care shepherds also serve as the care pastors of the care pastors. Does that make sense? Look at this again on the overhead. I'm saying the care shepherds, each one of them have 3 to 5 care ministers, and the care shepherds are the care pastors to the care pastors, or a care shepherd to 3 care ministers. All right. It's not all clear, don't worry, we're going to unfold it more and more. Now, care pastors provide ongoing care to their flock, which is comprised of 5 households. And then the next sentence is they follow a 5-point conduct strategy. Underline that, please. 5-point strategy. We're going to talk about that in the next teaching. Flocks usually consist of 5 households, but it could be 3 to 5. The care ministry leadership team will predetermine the flocks and assign those households to the care pastor. Now, underline that because that's going to become a question. You don't yet know that's going to be a question, but you're going to ask the question to yourself later on. The leadership team will predetermine the flocks and assign those households to the care pastors. I mentioned to you last night, we're not going to tell you, go and find 5 families or 3 families that are willing for you to become their care pastor or their care minister. That's going to be very awkward. None of you want to go and find 3 to 5 families and say, "Hey, do you mind if I become your care pastor?" I mean, that's going to be awkward. So the assignment is going to be done for you. You will be assigned to them. They will be assigned to you. All right. Already touched on this, but there it is in writing. Point number 5. Flocks usually consist of 5 households. The care ministry leadership team will predetermine the flocks. So a household may consist of a couple, father, mother, and children in the home, a single parent and a child or children in the house, or a single person who may be living on his or her own. So when we're talking about a family unit or a flock, they are defined in those 4 that I've just mentioned there above the sketch. All right, I'm not going to take time to go through the org chart at the bottom, page 20. We discussed that on the overhead. If you have any questions, please jot them down. We'll come to that in just a moment.